Welcome to Sliders and Wings, a podcast about the TV show Sliders.
And the TV show Wings.
And all the other forgotten TV shows of the 90s.
I'm Valerie Temple.
And I'm Rachel Cox.
Okay.
We had a birthday party for my 4-year-old, his 4th birthday, yesterday here, and I rented a bouncy house. And that was my Vietnam, I gotta say.
Whoa.
There's no other word for this. It is Vietnam. I was so tired. And then there was another kid's birthday down the street. So we went and made an appearance. And I was talking to some moms and I forgot the town where we all live. I said, what is the name of this town? Is it Wilmington? Is it Warrington? And they're like, now I've forgotten it.
Wallingford.
Wallingford, thank you. I keep forgetting the name of it.
They must have thought you were insane. Was that the first time you met
I think they could tell I was tired.
They're like, would you like to sit down? Here, have something to drink.
That bouncy house was not that big. It was 10 by 10. And they had a special deal. I don't know, it was like $120. You have to go pick it up and drop it off. So it was fine. I mean, I don't think we're going to do it again, but no one broke an arm. So it was first time for us. Throwing parties is kind of like addictive. Like you're addicted to the thrill of it. As soon as it gets started, you're like, why do I do this? Why would anyone do this? I don't know if you feel that way.
Yes, I think that's why I throw a party maybe once every 5 years. I go all out. I make a lot of food. I'm cleaning everything. I'm making sure everything looks nice. And then by the end,
I have regrets the second the first person arrives. As soon as someone arrives, I go, what have I done? What was I thinking?
What is this impulse of inviting people over to my house? I don't want people at my house.
Being at other people's houses. Yes. That's just great. I mean, you can't do anything wrong. I mean, you're at someone else's house.
And also you can leave whenever you want. That is the really bad thing about throwing parties is that you're stuck there.
And then sometimes you have to say like, I need to go to bed or I'm really tired or we have something else.
Aaron is so good at pushing people out of our house. He's just like, all right, that's enough.
Yes.
Time to go. Bye. Like
and everyone goes, oh, Aaron.
Yeah, exactly.
He's so rude. It's so adorable.
It's so cute how rude he is.
Yeah.
That's the great thing about making rudeness be part of your personality. People just accept it more.
Mm-hmm. Well, when Greg and I started dating, he introduced me to the Irish goodbye, which is where you just leave.
We have a friend named Dan Watson, the husband of Susie Underwood. And he is a really good Irish goodbyer, so much so that we coined the phrase the Watson wiggle. It's like, oh, he wiggled.
You can tell when someone's going to leave. They like start approaching you very slowly. You're like, you're leaving, right? Okay, I get it. Let's go.
You just don't want to do the whole to-do of, all right, I have to say goodbye to everybody.
The worst is when you feel that it would be rude to just leave without saying goodbye, but you know they also don't care that you're leaving.
Exactly.
But you cannot risk it. So you have to make a production about leaving. I am now leaving. I know you don't care, but I had to tell you.
I had to, just in case you did care. I need to head that off of the past.
So I want you to intro this show because you're the one that put it on the list.
So today we're watching Anything But Love.
Anything but love will do. Anything but hearts that beat like thunder. Anything but love would be enough for anyone but you.
Sir, just relax. It'll be fine.
Yeah. The pilot has good vision, right? And a good marriage. I mean, his wife didn't leave him for some guy whose house he might want to dive into or anything, huh?
Just try to think good thoughts. Before you know it, we'll be in Chicago.
Yeah, good thoughts, right.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to give the emergency landing procedure.
Emergency, what?
But I'm a little horrified. I just watched about 45 minutes of a show that aired in 1989.
I know. Yeah, it's on the cusp, but most of its run was in the 90s, so it counts. I mean, the second show we ever did on Sliders and Wings was your doing, and that was also started in 1989, Father Dowling Mysteries.
Oh, that's true.
Now we are even, okay?
I did remember the show, but I had completely forgotten about it. But in my mind, I had always held an association between Jamie Lee Curtis and Richard Lewis.
Really?
I had forgotten why.
So the reason I put this on the list is because it was a show that I was never aware of, and Aaron remembered it. He brought it up. And usually I'm the person who's pulling things out of the ether and forcing people to remember things that they would rather just leave to time. And he's like, oh, Anything But Love? You remember Jamie Lee Curtis and Richard Lewis? And I was like, what? What are you talking about? We actually watched the pilot of this a couple months ago.
That was fresh for you.
It was fresh for me. And I had been listening to, do you know Karina Longworth? She does the You Must Remember This podcast. She started another podcast during the pandemic where it was just her talking about movies that they hadn't seen before. It's like now defunct. But she was talking about this show specifically, Anything But Love. She got obsessed with it and bought the complete series. And her and her husband were watching this show, which is so bizarre to me because watching it, there's not really anything that hooks me.
That's what I was about to ask. What interested her about it?
I don't know. I can't tell you. I think she just was really into the gentle comedy. I don't know.
So it's a workplace comedy, but it's also kind of seems like it's trying to incorporate all of Richard Lewis's stand-up. One-liner. My Jewish mother. Like, I mean, I think he mentions his Jewish mother 3 times in the pilot.
Yeah, sure.
Normal amount.
No, a normal amount of time for Richard Lewis.
The setup is, let's see. So they aired for 4 seasons, which I was shocked by, 89 to 92.
Especially for a show. I mean, truly, for me, this never even entered my consciousness at any point until like 6 months ago. That's bizarre that it was on the air for 4 years.
It definitely seemed familiar, but I really can't say that maybe I was just seeing the trailers. Maybe I never watched it. Who knows? It stars Richard Lewis and Jamie Lee Curtis. They are coworkers at a Chicago magazine with a mutual romantic attraction. So I guess there's just an ongoing, will they or won't they, who struggle to keep their relationship strictly professional. Oh my God. Can you imagine you're so attracted to Richard Lewis. You just cannot keep it in your pants.
I know.
I mean, he has a certain charm. I mean, it's kind of like Richard Lewis. I mean, my first association of Richard Lewis is the Boku drink commercials. And he always has this huge hair. I mean, she kind of has a mullet too.
My association with Richard Lewis is very idiosyncratic. Every time I think of him, I think of our friend Emily Gould, because we were roommates in college. And there was this one time she was talking to her dad on the phone and her dad was like, I saw a famous person. I don't know what his name is. And Emily pulled me over. She's like, maybe Valerie can help. And I was like, okay, give me some clues. All he could give me was Jewish comedian. And I immediately was like, Richard Lewis? And he's like, that's it.
That's a wonderful memory.
I know. It warms my heart.
I mean, you could have said like 50 names. And that was the first one.
That was the first one. He was like, that's it. This show takes place in Chicago, I want to say, right?
Yeah.
Why is
they're like, sorry, I'm late. It was murder on the loop. So I watched episode 3 also. And they said, oh yeah, I know the traffic's so bad. She goes, no, I mean, there was a murder on the loop.
Wow.
Wow.
But Richard Lewis is so New York.
Oh yeah.
Like, how did he end up in Chicago?
Got lost. I mean, they're both good. Jamie Lee Curtis is, of course, like very likable and a great performer and very funny. I mean, she could do everything. Mm-hmm. It's so weird to watch her younger than I am now. She's like 30. Wow. And he's 42. I calculated at the time the show premiered.
Interesting.
With each passing episode, as the two banter and form a friendship as well as a working relationship, they come closer to realizing the potential for romance. They would have realized this sooner if they were not so distracted. Marty is tentatively dating a girl named Alice, who's played by Wendy Malick, while Hannah's recent ex, Jag, guest star Robin Thomas. And this guy, she's like, oh, he's so hot. He's so sexy. You're the best sex. And you see him and you're like, that guy? Visits and turns out to be Marty. He looks very much like Chris Sarandon. He's really familiar, but I couldn't place him.
I watched the first 3 episodes. So he shows up in the 3rd episode. And I also shared your sort of question mark, like this guy. And he also just seemed so familiar. I looked him up and there was really nothing.
He's like, hey, it's that guy. He's just got that face where he's probably just been on every show I've ever seen. Oh my God, the press photo, Richard Lewis's hair is so high. It's like 4 inches, standing up 4 inches over his head.
He's got a part and the hair on the either sides of the part waterfall up. And then he's got that really big mullet in the back. Sexy look.
It looks like the boss was replaced by this British actor, Joseph Mayer. If you Google him, you'll see how it says Irish American, but he was in Sister Act. He's so hyper familiar to me. Heaven Can Wait, Frankenweenie, Funny Farm, maybe.
Oh, Funny Farm.
Mars Attacks, The Out of Towners. He's like, he talks like this. I know that's meaningless to anybody, but just look at his face.
He's one of those guys.
He is that guy. I got to jump to the most 90s. The most 90s thing is a pre-internet newspaper room.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to go spend 50 hours researching this long form, deep journalistic article. Okay. Like, I'm just going to go do it. And they're like, go do it now. Do all the hard work and do it for hours and hours and hours.
It's so important.
It's so important. It's so important to do journalism.
Yeah. If this show was on now, they'd be working at a website aggregator where they're just like, I'm just going to make a quick comment about this article that someone else posted. So the second episode was only available as a reacts video, and the reacts video, it was funnier than the actual episode because this guy was so boring. It's just basically his face in the bottom of the screen. And every once in a while he goes, that's true. It really made me fall out. And every once in a while he would pause the episode. In that episode, the guest star was Taylor Negron, who's a comedian.
Yes, I know.
You know who he is.
He was a movie with Demi Moore and Chevy Chase where they, and Dan Aykroyd.
Nothing but
Trouble.
Yeah. He's also in Punchline, the movie about comedians. But this guy pauses the episode and he's like, this guy is very familiar. I don't know who he is, but I think he was a comedian. Anyway, I know who he is. And if you know his name, comment below.
And does this guy's reaction videos get like 100,000 views or what?
No, there were 73 views on this one.
Okay, so I'm like, good and I'm not doing anything wrong.
He had previously reacted to My Two Dads. Also, you got to watch the opening of this react video though, because he's just like, so it's episode 2. You know, I think I'm going to keep going with this, but if I don't, I might bail and start reacting to Lois and Clark. And I was like, what?
Temper everyone's expectations.
It was so weird. But the second episode is about a computer malfunction where they think his article has been deleted. Like,
oh my God.
Oh no.
Well, you see in the first episode, she's typing on a typewriter.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like a yellow original typewriter.
The premise is that she used to be a teacher and now she is trying to be a journalist.
Yeah. And
she meets Richard Lewis on a plane and she is very kind to him when he's being neurotic. And because of that, he's like, hey, I work at a newspaper or a magazine or whatever, and I'll help you get a job. And he does. Very nice.
And a lot of people wanted this job.
A lot of people did.
And she got the job by basically subverting the assignment and just writing about things that she thought were more important. You're right. Tortillas are stupid.
They assigned her an article trying to decide what was better, corn tortillas or flour tortillas. Her article was like, it doesn't matter because of homelessness. And they're like, whoa, she's so right.
Mind blown.
Yes, you've got the job.
And then she was living with her dad, who appears to live in a cabin in the woods somewhere outside Chicago.
Yeah, that was also confusing.
How is she getting to work?
Her dad lives in Chicago, but where was she? She meets Richard Lewis on a plane. So she was in what, LA? And then that's where she
mentioned in the interview that she did like 2 or 3 tours of inner city teaching. It sounds like she did Teach for America or something.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's where she was teaching.
All right. And then it ends up being totally random that in the third episode, her boyfriend is old friends with Richard Lewis. I was like, how is this all happening?
Yeah, that's kind of random. So coincidental.
I thought it was interesting. I was reading on the Wikipedia about this. The original premise of the show was completely different. The unaired pilot for the show featured similar characters, but a different premise. In the unaired pilot, Hannah is a high-powered editor in a love triangle with Marty and another man played by D.W. Moffat. The network liked the characters, but asked that the show be retooled to eliminate the love triangle and change the Hannah-Marty relationship before ordering it to series. So the network was like, we like them, but please remove anything that would drive a story.
Yeah.
As it is, it's just like kind of nothing. Their relationship is so ambiguous.
What's the show we watched with Jay
Thomas? Love and War.
Yeah. That reminds me of that. I mean, it's
Yeah.
got love in the name and it's kind of like nothing really to hang on to and it's kind of bland.
But at least in this one, they actually both work in the same place. So then that is why they're always around each other. Love and War didn't even have that, but he was a journalist in that too. So
Right.
journalist, man, that's so 90s.
Do you have a That's So 90s?
I was just struck by Jamie Lee Curtis's clothes.
Mm-hmm.
They were very early 90s.
Block colors.
At one point, she was wearing this really big hat with a big flat rim. It had a sort of a Blossom vibe to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think she wore that to her interview, and I was like, that makes you look like you're 12, but okay. Got the job anyways. What I was associating this show with was basically the middle segment of When Harry Met Sally, when they're friends. Billy Crystal, Meg Ryan. It kind of has a similar vibe to Richard Lewis, Jamie Lee Curtis. And Meg Ryan's a journalist in When Harry Met Sally. So I was like, oh, is this show ripping that off? No, this show predates When Harry Met Sally. Both came out in 1989 though. But I guess that maybe that was the zeitgeist was wanting just look at these platonic friendships that have potential.
I don't know. I mean, I know there's plenty of shows even today that don't really have some sort of hook or there's no gimmick, but like The New Girl, like I guess just like people who live together. I mean, friends, people who live together. That can't be why I think this is bland. It's not because there's no gimmick or contrived setup.
It doesn't start much. The pilot is her getting that job. You're like, okay, but that doesn't seem to be what the show's about. The show's sort of supposed to be about her and Richard Lewis or something, and their sexual tension. Like you don't actually feel any sort of vibe with them at all. At least I didn't. So,
well, there's a moment in the pilot when he mentions having a girlfriend. You can tell she's like, oh, because I think they were flirtatious in the pilot when they met.
Yeah, it's not strong enough, I don't think. I don't think I was very interested in seeing how their relationship played out. Comparing it to Love and War, I guess I think this is a weird thing to say, but I guess I think Jade Thomas is sexier and a more compelling romantic figure than Richard Lewis.
Agree.
Sorry.
I mean, I don't think many people are out there thinking Richard Lewis is a compelling romantic figure.
Can you imagine he's watching When Harry Met Sally? He's like, people except Billy Crystal, not me.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the gap between Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan is even larger than between these two, but
Correct.
You know, same vibe, hot woman, schlumpy guy.
I never even knew that Jamie Lee Curtis was in a TV show ever, but she does really well. She's very likable. She's very fun. She's got good timing.
She took a long break. She went from this and then finally she's like, time to get back to TV and do Scream Queens.
That's right. Yeah. Did you know that Jamie Lee Curtis holds 2 patents?
For what?
Biodegradable diapers. In 1987, she filed a patent. It's a modification of a diaper with a moisture-proof pocket containing wipes that can be taken out and used with one hand. So the diaper has the wipes in the diaper.
But also they're biodegradable?
I guess so.
I looked into that when Oscar was a baby a lot, and it seemed like the chemicals that make them absorbent basically eliminate the biodegradability.
Oh, okay. So the modification of the diaper was moisture-proof pocket containing wipes that could be taken out, used with one hand. Curtis refused to allow her invention to be marketed until companies started selling biodegradable diapers. So that's why it was never made, because it seems like that is probably impossible. But then she filed another patent 20 years later, also related to diapers.
Diapers on the brain.
I know. She's a Renaissance woman, though. She also has written a series of children's books. Jamie Lee Curtis can do anything.
Yeah, she was doing those helping you poop yogurt commercials.
Oh, yeah.
For a while.
Iconic. Yeah. She is a going gray icon.
Yeah.
Martin Short and Steve Martin were on Jimmy Fallon promoting Only Murders in the Building.
Have you started watching that yet?
Not yet. I have sent myself an email saying, don't forget. They were mainly promoting that show. They were just kind of like really goofing around. They were talking about what they were doing during the pandemic. And Steve Martin was like, I let my hair go gray during the pandemic. I think I'm going to keep it. Really made me laugh. Back to Anything But Love. We've got a couple more segments. Accent Corner.
Yeah, probably just the Richard Lewis sounding very New York. It's not like he went on and on about how he's been native Chicagoan or anything.
He went to Ohio State University for college, which I've always thought was interesting. I love imagining him walking around Columbus, Ohio.
Well, speaking of Billy Crystal, he went to Marshall University in West Virginia with my father.
Wow, weird.
I think he only went for a semester or two, but my dad used to play pool with him in the billiards hall.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's kind of random.
It's interesting to imagine Richard Lewis in Columbus, Ohio, way back in the day. It's just like, what were you doing there? You must have been
you get a scholarship or something. I think we've already discussed how guidance counselors just have random associations. Whoever your guidance counselor knows at some other random college. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is just very happenstance.
Aaron's dad went to his guidance counselor's funeral.
Oh, whoa.
He's like, she was great. She really helped me. I mean, he went to Cornell, so I guess he was coming from Cleveland in the 70s, getting into Cornell. That's pretty cool. She must have did a good job. So he went to her funeral, which I think is crazy. Mad Magazine?
Anything to shove.
Mine was Anything But This.
Oh, that's good. There's multiple movies and shows called Anything for Love or
right.
Anything to Love, or I mean, it's just a bad name. Anything But Love is
Anything But Love. Okay, so we are going to the grocery store. We're going to the DMV. Anything But Love, people. Well, let's talk about what you're watching.
Only Murders in the Building gets released once a week.
And
then I watched the show Evil through my Paramount Plus subscription, which is the show is bananas.
Really?
Watch it. Yeah, I mean, it's just nuts. It makes me actually kind of watch the other, what are their names? They're a married couple and their last name is King, but they do The Good Wife and The Good Fight. And it makes me think that maybe I would like those shows too. Although I'm a little daunted because I'm sure they've got like hundreds and hundreds of episodes.
Oh yeah, like The Good Wife had so many seasons. It was like 9 seasons.
They're kind of like a Ryan Murphy thing. Like they do kind of wacky, kind of out there plot lines, and they kind of try to push the envelope a little bit, but that's good. And then I picked up something that just came back with the second season, which is Modern Love.
Oh, okay.
On Prime. Did you watch any of the first season?
No.
For those who don't know, Modern Love is like an anthology show based on the New York Times column Modern Love, where people just like write stories about all different types of love. There's so much to criticize. It is wildly erratic, but they get top-notch A-list actors, and I have cried a lot. If I were you, I would skip straight to the second season, first episode with Minnie Driver. I cried like a baby. Oh my God. But I think it's also funny that when you're watching it, you're remembering that the stories come from regular people.
Yeah.
Or writers usually, And when I'm looking at Minnie Driver, I'm thinking like, this is just a normal looking woman. Because Minnie Driver isn't to me, she's not like astoundingly, unbelievably beautiful.
She's not distractingly beautiful. But of course, if you saw her in person, you'd probably be like, oh.
Well, exactly. Amongst actresses, she's just like, okay. But then you realize that if you plopped her down next to the person who wrote that piece, you'd be like, oh, who's this troll?
Right. Yes. On the flip side of that, I was watching this weird John Huston movie on Criterion Channel. Oh, it's got like this really bad title. It's called In Our Time or something, but it's got Betty Davis and Olivia de Havilland in it. And it's totally bananas. You'll love this. They're the Timberlake family. And there's 2 sisters. And the sisters are named Stanley and Roy. And they never say anything about it.
Oh.
It's never referenced. It's just accepted by everyone that they have these 2 homely guys' names. Betty Davis plays Stanley, and on the eve of her marriage, she runs off with her sister Roy's husband. And then just basically like destroys everyone's lives. And it's really, really melodramatic.
Is it black and white or colored?
It's black and white. It's like from 1941. At one point, Betty Davis runs over this mom and her daughter and kills them. Her husband hangs himself. She is just a force of mania. But there's so much dialogue in it saying how beautiful Betty Davis is and how regular Olivia de Havilland is. Olivia de Havilland has to say these lines and she's like, well, you're so lucky. I mean, you're so gorgeous. And I wish I was you. And as a viewer, you're watching it and you're like, we can see both of them.
But that's the way with everything she was in. Wasn't she a character actress and everyone just had to pretend she was pretty?
She was just such a force of an actress. She was such a great actress that she played the leading lady role, even if that wasn't really appropriate for the way she carried herself, the way she visually came across.
You watched a weird one the week before too. Remember my search for that movie?
Yes.
So you suggested Times Square. So I actually found, I don't know how I got lucky. I definitely was trying to get me to click on all these ads, but I'm like, I don't care what happens to this laptop. So joke's on you. So I watched this totally illegal streaming Times Square online starring Trini Alvarado and this other woman who basically just did this movie and then didn't do anything else. So she's like an untrained actress. And it was fucking nuts. It's great, but it is one of those movies where like you don't understand what anyone's motivations are the whole time. But it's kind of like you're just along for the ride. Like, what are you talking about? And then it's also about kids who are just like stupid, but the fact that anyone in the movie is taking the kids seriously is kind of a joke. Like no one would take kids seriously in real life.
In that girl, not Trini Alvarado, but the other one, I think her name's Robin Johnson. She's got this like really gravelly voice.
I'm just a damn dog.
Yeah, I'm a dog. Yeah,
that's the song she sings, damn dog. There's one song in there that like hooked me and I ordered the record. And it's by a band called, I'd never heard of, Desmond Child and Rouge. And Desmond Child is actually a well-known singer-songwriter who's just insanely successful. He's just written like tons of hits, but he used to actually be part of this band. And the band's interesting because I guess that one or two of their records are like on the disco side, and then it kind of crosses into the 80s, and then it's kind of, I don't know, new wave, or I don't know what you would call that. The song is called The Night Was Not, and it's not streaming anywhere. I had to like listen to it through YouTube, but I found the record for like $10, so I ordered it.
I love that.
It's from the scene when she's dancing for the first time in the club and she's shy and nervous. That song.
That song's great. God, that scene is incredible. Oh my God, it's so
what's funny is that the other movie that I think might be the movie also has Trini Alvarado in it.
I know, that's so weird.
That's strange. But what's weird is I'm watching the movie that came out the year I was born. But in a weird way, the kids that are in it, they were 13. So I'm like, oh, these people are only 13 years older than me. I mean,
right.
If I was like standing next to them, I'd be like, we're like the same age.
Pretty much. By the way, the movie I was talking about was called In This Our Life. That's the worst title.
But do you find that when you go and watch old movies that aren't well known, how many times are you pleasantly surprised and how many times you're like, oh, this is why it's not in the canon?
It's like 50-50.
Okay.
I also recently watched a really good screwball comedy called Libeled Lady. And it's got Myrna Loy, William Powell, Jean Harlow, and Spencer Tracy. And it's super hilarious. There's all sorts of crazy stuff that happens. And I guess it got banned in a couple places because of its disrespectful attitude towards marriage. The premise is that there's this newspaper that's in trouble because this millionaire heiress, Myrna Loy, is suing them for libel. They had published some story about her and she's like, I'm suing you for $5 million. Your story was bullshit. I'm going to close your doors, you know?
The Peter Thiel of this story.
So then their plan is like they bring in William Powell and he marries Jean Harlow just for this job. And then he starts to romance Myrna Loy, all this time he's trying to set her up so that she will actually be involved in a scandal with a married man. And then she has to drop the suit. But then, of course, they fall in love.
Right. Mm-hmm.
There's like bigamy, basically. Several times over.
I watched 42nd Street recently, and I had to watch it in, I swear, like 6 viewings.
Yeah.
It's just, what is going on in this movie? Like,
and
then like abruptly they'll end.
Yeah.
And it's over. Like, what?
Yeah. I do like watching them because there are some real gems, but more often than not, they are disappointing in some way.
My brother-in-law and I were having an argument where he's like not into classic film or anything. And he said, I tried to watch Casablanca or something. He's like, is it good? Like, is it really good? And I said, because I'm someone who's seen a lot of movies and worked in a lot of movie stores, but I don't always buy into whatever is the common agreement that things are good or bad. So what I've said is it's hard to compare it to today's standards. I just don't think they had like the caliber of actors. Like, they're just so happy the person is like saying the lines and like standing in the right spot. They're here. They know the lines. Let's go.
I do remember the first time I saw Casablanca. I was in college and our film club had a screening of it. And it starts with this super cheesy airplane flying over a globe. It's so bad looking that I started laughing. And then I was just like, oh no.
By today's standards, Humphrey Bogart is not a good actor. He's just not doing really anything. I feel like most of what I like, and probably what most people like about watching old movies, is just the scenery and just being transported through time. It's just like the whole novelty of it. It's not necessarily that it's like a great movie.
Half of it to me is the costumes and the apartments.
I mean, all the different shades of gray. I mean, we've got dark gray, we've got light gray, we've got speckled gray.
But it's dark and light gray in Art Deco. Okay? It's gorgeous.
What's also funny is like with black and white movies, you're just always like, where are we now? Like, without color, it has started to like, am I in a house? Am I in an apartment? Am I in an office? Like, everything looks the same.
I love it.
But I won't stop watching.
No, I can't get enough of it.
And every once in a while, there's a movie like The Bad Seed that just makes up for it.
Those movies are few and far between.
Yeah.
Truly. So we watched a movie with Rob Lowe recently, and he was looking up Rob Lowe. Apparently, Rob Lowe directed and starred in a Lifetime remake of The Bad Seed not that long ago.
Oh.
Apparently is not good. They were like, it's not scary or campy. So
let's revisit this. Can you imagine if John Waters had made a remake of it?
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, it would be so glorious.
So I think with movies, there's a tug of war between the actual form of acting that you would see like on a stage in a play, and then there's the style of the visual art of it.
Yeah.
And it's like a cross between those two things. And some people could be great directors just because they have great art direction and great style. Okay, I feel really stupid now. I feel like this is like film theory 101. I got some thoughts on film I want to lay on you.
What do you think?
I'm like 41 and I'm like, I'm going to start thinking about film.
It's always fun to think about film. There's a lot to think about. I think that's it.
Okay. Good night, Val.
Bye. Good night.